Short game, short game, short game. And I've brought the short game king. Like that. You gotta have some special hands to do that, Christopher. Well played. Slightly Latin. Very. Chris Gill, welcome back to the channel. We've gone a little run of videos where we've been down to Newquay. Yep. We've been playing a little break pass series with a twist. Some of the things that I've talked about on my Sunday morning show, what I've talked about certainly in the past and more recently is your short game. We've talked about it to try and help my short game in the past. And I kind of gave a bit of a brief as to what I felt I saw from you and things that we've talked about as I said, in the past. But I thought today we could have a little chat about it. Yeah. And see if there's anything that you do that helps with your short game that maybe the audience might be able to do themselves and help with their short game. Give them something to think about, certainly over the winter months. I really want us to simplify it. Your short game makes me feel like I'm simplifying the game. Let's see if we can simplify it for the audience as well.
So the question is, what is the secret?
The secret. There is a secret to short game, Daniel. Well, there are more than one secret, but in my opinion, now, lots of other coaches might have their own views, their own ideas. Me personally, and I've been very lucky down here to play with some pretty high profile players, major winners, etc. And they do simplify everything down. And there's very little that can go wrong. For me with short game, there's two key components. At the moment of impact, there has to be positive shaft lean. As soon as we get into any form of negative shaft lean, the strike pattern gets out, the angle of approach gets out. You're just not going to deliver this golf club as consistently as you can. You just can't. The second bit for that is that we need to take out variables. Now, when we're making a driver swing, we turn, we rotate, we get torque, we get wrist hinge, we get all this weight distribution, you get this force plates nowadays, right? So we don't need any of that. We can kind of park that until we get the driver and the sort of pink castle tee out again. That can live over there. For me, it's all about how consistently we can deliver this golf club, right? So sounds pretty simple in practice, right? Yeah. But it's not as simple as it looks or it feels. But with a couple of little tips today, I'm sure we can get most of you chipping a lot better. So for me, the two key areas are, the two variables are our hands, because our hands are twitch muscles, right? You've got twitch muscles in our hands, in our fingers, and our forearms. So I see it all the time, guys, they're kind of using that. Your engine, your big muscles, your kind of trunk here, well, that doesn't move. So I've got too many variables that can go on, haven't I? So I can't deliver that consistently. And I think, especially the times we've played and the times we've sort of talked about your short game especially, two things that you kind of do, you kind of load the club a little bit here into the backswing, you have a little bit of wrist hinge, as you do with or as anybody would do with a normal swing. We're trying to get this kind of L-shaped 90-degree angle that we try and coach at to create hinge, to create turn. But actually what we need to do is preset the club into this forward position and just hold it there. Now, because I'm a bit of a geek, I did watch your video the other day, and it is very much a kind of extension of the putting stroke. It has to be different because there's more loft on this, because of what we're trying to achieve, but primarily, I want to use my engine. And when I coach, especially short game, I use engine, that word, a lot, because your trunk, your lumbar, we're just trying to pivot around that center point, because then surely that's going to deliver the golf club back as consistently as we can do that, right? If we can get the club into this nice position here where not quite a straight arm from the shaft to the left forearm, but when that shaft is parallel to the floor here, I don't want this movement. I certainly don't want that movement, but I certainly don't want this hinge, because if I load this up, that's got a lot of energy stored here now, and that's got to be lost somewhere. And what historically I've seen down the 30 years of coaching is it gets lost that way. Well, then your strike pattern gets out. So it goes against my other principle for coaching, chipping, is positive shaft lean.
So with that in mind, when you're talking about that angle, that if you get back to that position that you're talking about there, okay. Now, this angle that you're creating here, is that already preset at address? Is this what we're talking about here? So how much do you create a sensation of almost creating a little bit of hinge, or do you just set it at address and then simply just take it away like you would a putter? Because obviously with putting you wouldn't, let's say, hinge at all. Do you feel like you get any hinge in it at all?
No.
You simply just get the sense of just taking it away as rigid as possible, almost like no hinge.
Just be a bit wary. The word's not rigid.
Okay.
You're just firming it up.
Yeah, no, so not rigid as in...
I'm not kind of here.
Not creating tension.
I'm kind of turning my shoulders, I'm turning my everything to get into this position.
Yes.
There has to be a tiny bit of hinge because there's momentum on the club.
It will naturally,
so there has to...
the weight of the head, it pulls it back
Got
slightly.
way more weight here. Like the weight of your wedge is way heavier than the weight of your driver, let's say.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a little bit of kind of natural club head speed almost.
Yeah.
Where, you know, to us to do that is kind of almost impossible.
You're creating too much tension to create that.
So all I'm trying to do is to keep this angle in place here.
Yeah.
Turn my shoulders, turn my trunk.
Yeah.
Weight stays nice and even.
Yeah.
It's not too much on my left, not too much on my right.
Yeah.
Stays into this position. And then all I try and do there is feel like my chest, so my zip just turns over the ball and I hold that angle in place.
Yeah, I love that.
It's as simple as you can make it. It's not... As soon as we start including variables into any form of the golf game.
And that's where I am, right there. What you've just done there, that is where I can get on
you
just
do.
a simple shot.
You do this, Daniel. You get a little bit too much energy here. That energy then has to be lost somewhere, right? So what you do, as hundreds of people that I've seen down the years do, you'll lose the energy by losing the angle. And I talk about this angle an awful lot. And your body stops. So you get into kind of that area, which is where the inconsistency of strike comes from. You can hit it fat, you can hit it thin, you can hit both bad shots from there. Where actually, if I can get you to rotate here and rotate into that way, you're going to start delivering this a lot more consistently, but more importantly, there's less stuff that can go wrong. Now, I'm a massive fan of coaching, of saying to people, you can't guarantee a good golf shot. There are too many things that happen within a golf swing. There just is. But I tell you what you can do. It's a little bit like gambling. You can actually stack the odds in your favour a little bit to give yourself the best chance. So if we take variables out, if we take stuff that, if you got out of bed the wrong way, if you've had a barney with the missus before you went to the golf club, if you've whatever, if you had a bad day, we need to take all that out and we need to put in the good stuff, as in keep it as nice, as solid, as simple. I'm a big fan of that. It's got to be simple. So the more I can feel the ball position kind of is middle, just forward of middle, just a tiny bit forward. Lots of guys have a bit too far back to try and create that lean. Then you have to sort of find the bottom of the ball a little bit. Again, if you have it too far forward, historically, you're going to try and help it. And as I say a million times, about 250 years ago, some Scotsman in a shed somewhere, probably in Glasgow, when it was raining, decided that if you didn't use a crook and we put loft on, shaft still leaning that way, but we put loft on this, we don't have to get that off the floor. We don't have to help it. It's not a hockey stick. It's not a tennis racket. We don't have to create the loft. There's enough on this. So if we can just deliver it how the club is designed, it'll feel like you're not really doing a lot, but that's the key. Again, it's simple. So the more simple I can keep it by turning and we rotate, because we keep rotating, you'll get told by a lot of coaches, especially the older coaches, this foot stays on the floor. Well, my body can't really turn then. It has to come off a little bit, right? So that's how we deliver the golf club way more consistently.
So that covers pretty much, let's say, the chip shot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the pitching, surely there has to be a little bit more, well, you've got to create a bit more speed.
100%.
How do you create the speed that you get? Because even though I think you're a great chipper of the golf ball, you're a fantastic pitcher of the ball as well. So do you do anything different when it comes to chipping to when we then move into the slightly longer shots? Let's say what I'm going to set up here now, about 75 yards.
So this is my little training aid that I use. So it's a tour rotation stick. It's from a friend of ours. We both know Liam Bond, great player in his own right. But developed this. I know it looks like a sort of 1984 Escort aerial, doesn't it? But you screw this to the top of your club. So you can hold the club normally. Now, some of you would have done this with alignment sticks and holding alignment rods and all this kind of stuff. With this, it's just a bit easier and it gives you instant feedback. So what it is for me here is that when we get ourselves set up, the stick comes out my left side here, So I turn back. So you're on about pitching now. So you could even use this chipping,
Yeah.
where I don't ever want this stick to hit me, because otherwise I'm going to lose the angle.
Yeah,
You see?
yeah.
So I have to, as it says on the tin, rotation. I have to rotate to make sure that this doesn't hit me. If it hits me, I've lost the angle, I've lost the strike, I've lost the consistency.
Yeah.
So the thing I changed with the pitching, and let's just work into half a swing, is there has to be more rotation. There has to be a little bit more set here, because we have to now start creating a little bit more speed. Because you want the ball to go further, right?
Do you think, though, as you talked about where you start to pull that head away,
Yep.
the natural weight of the head is wanting to sort of almost like hinge your wrist slightly. Do you feel that because you're putting, let's say, a bit more speed into it to take it away and turning more, that we're just naturally seeing that head want to take over and pull the hinge up more?
100%.
Is that right? Is that how it? Is
The
that how
further
I'm
the
feeling
club
it?
goes, the more it has to kind of hinge a little bit anyway. It will just hinge naturally.
Yeah.
For me, I don't mind a little bit of hinge within the pitching.
Okay.
But it has to be, and it's imperative, it gets linked with the rotation.
Yeah.
So you have to rotate when it comes to pitching. Any chipping or pitching, but as soon as my body stops and my arms take over,
Yeah.
my strike pattern is all over the place. If I control it again with my trunk and my lumbar, even if I get it to sort of halfway back here, there's a natural set here. It's not quite the driver or the irons where we're trying to get this sort of 90-degree square angle.
You're not trying to put it there, are you? You're
No.
just naturally letting the weight of the head of the club pull it up to that position.
All I'm trying to do is turn.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to rotate. So if I turn my body, that's naturally how it's going to be. You're going to have a tiny bit of hinge.
Yeah.
My shoulders have turned, what, 70 degrees?
Yeah.
I guess. And then from there, all I'm trying to do is make sure the stick doesn't hit me and I turn. The more I turn, the more I keep this angle, the more this doesn't hit me,
Yeah.
the more I'm going to deliver the golf club way more consistently. You look at some of the great pictures of the golf ball, and I'm a massive fan of Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy uses one of these. It's all about rotation, this game. It's all about using your bigger muscles to control the smaller bit. If we use this smaller bit and we use our twitch muscles, it's too many variables, too much stuff that can go wrong.
Crikey, you got that on the line.
Yeah, straight on the line, there you go.
Line.
65
Not bad.
yards.
About 65 yards. Fully understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So all about the body rotation, how we get through the shot correctly and naturally letting the weight of the club pull it up.
Yeah.
Just when you mentioned earlier, you talked about the chipping side of things, you didn't, let's say, sort of talk too much about the fact that where does the weight distribution sit? I know you kind of said it was more kind of a little bit of lean to the left side or the leading towards the target. But when it comes to pitching, does that change again? Do you just try and get the sense of staying on your left side? Do you allow that body to naturally move to the right side? How does that kind of work for you? Do you think about that, or is it a natural thing?
No, 100% think about it.
You do?
It has to remain on your left side a little bit. Again, because we're not trying to create forces, we're not trying to hit
Yeah.
the drive, we're not trying to load up.
Yeah.
We're trying to consistently hit it.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. So I do tend to have a tiny bit of weight, only about 60% on my left side. Some guys say you should be a bit more to create a much more steeper angle of approach. I like it just a tiny bit, but more importantly, and this is why I don't talk about weight distribution much within my coaching.
Okay.
There's two big key areas. So they did a survey a few years ago, and they went back through coaching to chipping and pitching.
Yeah.
And they started back with Bobby Locke, and then they went up through the years, Nicholas Watson,
Yeah.
Woods, Jason Day, great pitchers, great chippers of the golf ball. Seve.
Yeah.
And the big thing they did, they all had something a bit different. Seve was quite a floaty kind of backswing, wasn't it? Olazabal was a bit more kind of rigid. Jason Day, very stiff-wristed.
Yeah.
Tiger was a little bit more stiff-wristed.
Yeah.
But there's two key areas that they all did. And they analysed these millions of swings. But there's two key areas. Firstly, their zip or their centre was in front of the ball.
Okay,
Because
so
you're trying to get
slightly,
the bottom of the arc happening just after the ball. The second thing was they all rotated.
Yeah.
That's the two key areas that they all did. So if I'm kind of set up here, if I sort of set up here,
Yeah.
show you guys there. So if the ball's kind of centre, my weight is 50-50. If I just move my zip
Yeah.
in front of the ball,
Yeah.
that naturally will put a tiny bit more weight on my left side anyway.
Yeah. And do you feel it in the inside of your foot? Do you feel it in your heel? Do you feel it just right in the middle?
I feel it on the kind of outside of the left boot.
Do you?
But
Okay.
more importantly, from my sort of setup position, which is about here, that feels nice and comfortable for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I can lift up the right side of my right shoe really easily.
Yeah, roll it
almost
in.
sort of Elvis.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
I almost feel I can move it fairly easy. Where if my weight was 50-50, it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Where if I move my zip that way,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier.
Makes sense. You sing like Elvis as well, don't you? Okay, let's see if you can hit this then 75 yards with a 60-degree wedge in your hand.
Oh, this is a 54.
Oh, is it a 54?
That's
okay,
fine.
Well, you
That's
can
fine.
move-
I can
you're
hit
happy?
that.
So you're just going to naturally lower the flight anyway.
So I'm going to hit it slightly lower. So a 75-yard shot for me will be about there.
Dancing. You're dancing.
77, 78. It's not too bad.
So the thing that I'm taking away from this more so than anything else is keeping ourselves in a nice solid position. I don't want to talk about the word rigid because that can create a little bit too much tension possibly, but rotation. Rotation and turn, allow the body to rotate and just allow that club to naturally just fall onto the golf ball as you come through.
Engine. You've got to use the engine. As soon as we use our hands, we're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good setup, good solid base, good solid weight distribution, engine.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much. As I said, Gilly's one of the best short game players that I've kind of come across over the years, and it's fantastic to actually hear now how he thinks as he goes around the golf course and when he's got different shots in front of him. And I hope that's helped you as well, because ultimately if we can give a little bit of focus this winter on our short game, then we'll come into the season absolutely lowering scores. If we can get that short game dialed in, we can definitely shoot lower scores. Big thank you to Chris, and don't forget, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again on the next video.